Welcome, and thank you for coming to the final presentation of the inaugural class of the Center for the Creation of Economic Wealth. I'm Skip Porter, and I'm just going to take a couple of minutes and give you a little bit of the background, as this is the beginning of this program at the University of Oklahoma and how it fits in. I'm going to kind of give you the 30,000-foot view and then turn it over to Daniel Pullen, our Executive Director, who will, I don't know, give you the 1,000-foot view or maybe where the rubber meets the road. I'm not sure. 8 years ago, the Office of Technology Development at the University of Oklahoma was created to work with the faculty and the students and to take on the leadership role, as it should, being the flagship university of our state, to promote creating wealth in Oklahoma, creating wealth out of our own talent and our own technology. And so in the Office of Technology Development, our focus has been on creating a reservoir of intellectual property based upon the talent at this university particularly, and then working with the private sector to move that talent and with the technology to create industry and companies in our state. Over the last 8 years, the reservoir of that intellectual property from this university and its talented faculty has grown. And it's outgrown the in-house budget ability of the Office of Technology Development to really properly review, assess, and transfer the technology. So the concept of the Center for the Creation of Economic Wealth, which many of us in this room, and by the way, I see many colleagues, officer colleagues of the university. I won't take the time to recognize everybody individually, but thank you very much for joining us here tonight. This is an opportunity for our students in this inaugural class to share with you what they've been challenged to do, which is to work on real projects. This is not a case studies class. This class, we meet every Wednesday night at this time from 6 to 8 and review, but in between, there's a lot of work that is going on. And the concept behind this was to get the intellect and the energy of this student body and how great the students, and I have to say, and I'll say right now to this inaugural class, it has exceeded my expectations of contribution for a beginning program at this institution. And I'm anxious, as the faculty of record of your class, to hear these final presentations tonight. But you can't give a project like this to a group of students without having them have the benefit of the wisdom and experience of mentors. And so in this inaugural class, we had 3 projects. We had 3 mentors. Tony Say from Oklahoma City, and Tony couldn't be here tonight because they are right in the middle of opening a new chemical processing plant. And so that's how real world these projects are. But 2 of the mentors are here tonight, and I'd like to take this moment to introduce each one of them and thank them publicly. Tom Appel. Tom, stand up. I want everybody to know Tom. And what his role has been with one of the groups will unfold for you as the presentation is made. And Dr. William Paiva. William, please stand up and be recognized. Both of these gentlemen have become friends of mine over the years that I've been here in Oklahoma, and I personally appreciate Tom and William, your commitment to this program. So with the help of the mentors like Tom and William and Tony, these students have then been assigned to work on the projects, and Daniel Pullen will give you the where the rubber meets the road view here in a minute. So out of this, we are leveraging off of the goodwill of our mentors in the community that care about the state and care about the University of Oklahoma and more specifically care about the students. And we're leveraging off of the energy and the intellect of these students to give us a capability that at the university and in our Office of Technology Development that, frankly, we couldn't go out and hire And so that's the concept, is a win-win opportunity. None of this would be happening if it wasn't for our faculty, the creators of this intellectual property, and Dr. Shritter Radhakrishnan. Shritter, please stand up and be recognized. One of the inventors out of our computer science school. And I know John Antonio, who is a colleague in this. John, stand up also. Both of these faculty members have served as faculty mentors on the project. You don't always get to have faculty's real world as well. Dr. Miguel Vagahewicz from chemical engineering is somewhere traveling around the world. Peru? Okay, well, one of those places, yeah. And so he couldn't be here tonight, but his work you will hear about from the team that he has mentored as a faculty member as well. And who am I missing? We need somebody to give credit for having this idea of the Big Bucks team, which has been. So this is really something that Daniel and I have kind of taken over as, no matter what we do, it takes money to play the game. And so one of our teams has, as you will hear, has been looking at how do you go get that, and what are the programs that others have done to accomplish it. Getting to tonight, as I mentioned, we worked 3 years ago to put together the concept for this, but this class has really been a team effort. The work of the center is led by Daniel Pullen, and Daniel, thank you for this good work. Neil Galahali has been at every class meeting and brings a great legal perspective. We even let Neil move up and sit at the table after about 3/4 through the. And also in the audience tonight are a number of guest lecturers that have come and talked with our students. And I thank you, those of you that are here tonight, and I know you're going to be interested to hear this final presentation. So that's the background, that's the perspective, that's the history, that's the hope for the future of this program. And the details of what is really going to happen tonight are about to be forthcoming from the executive director of the center, Daniel Pullen. Please welcome Daniel Pullen.
Thank you, Dr. Porter. First of all, even though this is our inaugural intern class, as Dr. Porter alluded to, this is not a new idea. This is something that has been marinating for at least 3 years, 3 to 4 years, and it really is the thought leadership of Dr. Porter combined with assistance from President Bourne and Gene Rainbolt, who really have provided the vision and leadership for us to have the opportunity today to execute what you're about to see. So for that, I thank you, Dr. Porter. So on the topic of where the rubber meets the road, I want to talk a little bit about just the overall program, how it works. Brag a little bit on our interns, talk to you at a high level about these projects, and then turn it over to the real stars of our show. So our program, there are 3 big components. Upon receiving admittance to the internship program, we put our interns through a rigorous boot camp. This is a week-long series of activities that exposes them to, at a high level, to the fundamental steps of the entrepreneurial process and technology commercialization in general. So they walk out of there after 2.5 days of pretty hardcore training, understanding the lingo, how the game's played, and have a general sense for how to take a technology to the marketplace. This is very instrumental because many of our interns, in fact the majority of our interns, aren't from a traditional business background, and this is by design, and I'll explain that in a moment. Upon graduating from the boot camp, there is a weekly seminar series, which Dr. Porter alluded to. This is an opportunity for the interns to take the breadth that they learned at the boot camp and really acquire the depth of perspective around individualized topics dealing with entrepreneurship or technology commercialization. One week we might have venture capitalists in the classroom telling us, how do you size a deal? The next week we might have a serial entrepreneur who talks about how you create value off of an idea. How do you take it from the lab to the marketplace? We may have a CEO of a company or a state leader or someone responsible for regional economic development. But in any case, there's always a tremendous traditional pedagogical learning opportunity for our interns, combined with the third piece of the program, which is the project team, the actual tech commercialization work that we're performing. Our interns, there are 11 this fall. We've been able to bump it up to 12 for the spring. We're excited to continue to grow the program. They come from 11 different majors: econ, all sorts of business majors, mechanical engineering, industrial, communications majors, and MBA. Tremendous reflection of the broader areas of focus that we have as our university. And that's by design. If you think about the most successful business organizations today, it's not just a bunch of accountants sitting around making decisions or a bunch of engineers working in the lab just driving the strategy of the company. By design, the top organizations in corporate America today field cross-functional teams, gather a variety of perspectives, someone with deep financial experience, or someone that's highly creative, or a strategic thinker, or someone that understands process and operation. And they put this breadth of knowledge together to challenge each other, to be creative, to come up with the best ideas, and to come up with the best right answer for a company in a given situation. That's the ecosystem that we're trying to recreate, and I think that we're succeeding in recreating here at the Center for the Creation of Economic Wealth. Our interns, we have club presidents, campus leaders, varsity athletes. They come from 3 states and 2 countries. Incredibly diverse group, yet they have some commonalities as well. They're all intellectually curious. They want to learn more. It's just in their blood. They're all mature beyond their years, which is tremendously important when interacting with mentors from the private sector, esteemed thought leaders being our researchers, and people, potential commercial partners that we may be pursuing. They have a common thread of maturity. Their work ethic, unparalleled. You guys put me to shame back from my undergrad work ethic. I don't know how you do it, but these guys spend, I would say, 15 to 20 hours a week on the program. We only ask about 8 a week from them. But because of their innate drive to learn more, to produce more, to give back to the university through their efforts, they're here all the time. It's not uncommon to see them 3:30 in the morning, 6 a.m. I know who you know who I'm talking about. Crunching numbers, working on slides, really planning the way forward for the team. This is dedication, and it's just in their blood. And it's a commonality across them all, despite their diversity. Tonight you'll learn about 3 projects. Wireless Wear. At a high level, this is a software program that provides real-time mission-critical information to emergency responders to improve the efficacy of their work, namely police departments. You'll learn about a new technology for crude oil refining, one that simultaneously has the potential to boost the revenue of good products coming out the back end of a refinery, and maybe even reduce the cost side through energy efficiencies of refining crude oil. A tremendous technology. And finally, you'll learn about an idea that really, in my opinion, is the missing link to the long-term success of our commercialization efforts here at the university, and that's capital. How do we take our best ideas in an expedient manner, find a way to provide them with the growth capital they need to get to the marketplace? Absent capital, many times an idea will sit on the shelf. Despite the horsepower, the hours that go into it, if you don't have the money to build the prototype or to do the market analysis or get on the plane to go meet that first customer, you're selling yourself short. We're going to fix that. So I've talked a lot. Hope you have a better flavor for this, but I do want to share with you something that our PR team and our interns put together. It really is sort of an overall multimedia reflection of a day in the life of a CCW intern.
Today, we are faced with the challenge of competing in a rapidly changing, knowledge-based global economy. Oklahoma is poised to compete by creating companies and industries around our own talent and technology. The Center for the Creation of Economic Wealth at the University of Oklahoma is leading the way. At CCEW, students, inventors, and entrepreneurs join together to move key technologies to the marketplace. From medicine to bioengineering to meteorology, CCEW is helping shape Oklahoma's future. The Center for the Creation of Economic Wealth at the University of Oklahoma.
All right. Well, without further ado, I do want to turn it over to the stars of our show. Our first group is Team Wirelessware. Please come on up.
As Daniel said, we're the team that's been working with Wirelessware this semester. And I'm Jacqueline Stelzer, a communication major from Allen, Texas.
I'm Rob Kish, a finance major from Dallas, Texas.
I'm Marjorie Fritz. I'm a marketing major from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
And I'm Blake McGuire, computer engineering major, also from Tulsa, Oklahoma. You know, growing up with computers and the internet, it's pretty easy to take them for granted. I know that I can from time to time. I know that the ability to access information quickly and pull up things like directions is a pretty good convenience for me. But I also know that for other people, that type of ability can really mean the difference between life and death. Consider what occurred on Tuesday, May 10th of 2005. Officer David Uribe of the Phoenix Police Department, a 22-year veteran, pulled over a car in an innocuous traffic stop for a busted taillight. He called in the license plate check and proceeded to approach the vehicle. As he walked towards the car, the driver pulled out a gun, opened fire, and shot him in the head and the neck, killing him. It was only after that fact that the results of the license plate check came back to reveal that the car had been stolen. If this information had been available to the officer instead of requiring a dispatcher, then this day might have ended very differently. It is because of this and other reasons that there are companies like Wirelessware out there to provide solutions for first responders to give them the information that they need.
Wirelessware is a startup company that was founded by Sridhar Radhakrishnan and John Antonio. The technology was developed here in-house at OU and provides solutions, as you heard, to first responders for things like communication and location assistance. And Wirelessware is currently providing these solutions to 2 police departments here in Norman as well as up in Moore.
And now we're going to delve a little bit more into what Officer Assistant does. And these next 2 screenshots are actually what the police officers see on their laptop in their vehicle. The first of these is the map page, and as you can see, there's aerial maps of virtually any location that the officer would need. And these balloons that you see here designate the locations of their colleagues as well. And this is important because in case they need to call for backup or some situation that they not planned for, they know where their fellow officers are located. Next here is the unit screen, and it's similar to the one before with the balloons, but the officers are listed by the task that they're assigned to and where they are at that time. It's just another way of formatting that so the officers have access to. This next screen is the calls screen, and the calls are listed by status. There are 4 categories that calls can be under. The first is my calls, where the officer can manage his own calls, and this sends out a broadcast to the other officers, letting them know whether or not he's on a current call or he or she has completed their call. The next is holding calls, which are ongoing calls. All calls, where all officers can view all calls that are currently being attended to, and then completed calls, recently completed calls, remain up for a period of time. And this next screen is the NCIC database, and the NCIC is the National Crime Information Center, and what their database does is provides information to the officers about criminal justice. And so basically, like what Blake referenced before, the officers have this at their fingertips to enter in a plate number, and they can get information not only about the vehicle, but also about the driver. And in the example that Blake spoke of, the officer would have instantly known before he approached the vehicle that the car was stolen, and obviously would have taken extra precaution, possibly called for backup. So this is a great thing that it's right at their fingertips, and previously they would have had to have contacted the dispatcher with a delay in receiving the information.
As a team, we decided to establish a few things that we need to accomplish in order to help WirelessWare succeed as a company. First, we chose to prepare a business plan to help the company to grow organically. Second, we decided that we need to interact with all stakeholders in order to help benefit all parties. And lastly, we decided to determine the optimal solution in order to have the best outcome.
The first step that we took in determining the optimal solution was to conduct a market analysis. It would do two things for us. A, give us a sense of the existing market and the potential for growth within it, and also use the survey of the competition to see how we stack up in terms of strengths and weaknesses against everybody else. So during that analysis, we came across three main points. The first is the component versus system. And basically, there are two kinds of companies, can be generalized to be two kinds of companies in this space. There are those which offer complete systems, and there are those which offer single components, like WirelessWare does. A typical system that would be used in the police department consists of three components. We have a mobile component in the field, which is where the officer types in and is able to access information. We have a database, the records management system, which is used to store police information and other records. And there's a computer automated dispatch system that works to connect the two. So because of some concerns about system reliability and overall system costs, most police departments will tend to order complete systems from one company as opposed to ordering components in a piecemeal fashion and then trying to put them together after the fact. So that typical buying decision tends to hurt WirelessWare in terms of the addressable market. The second point that we came up with was market saturation. And the founders of the company were able to provide us with over 100 potential competitors just based on their visits to one trade show. And further research on our part uncovered significantly more than that. So there's definitely a lot of other competitors in the space. And one thing that we noticed, despite a great deal of variety between the competitors, is that on the whole, they don't tend to do very well financially. You can tell BioKey here is the company with the largest installed user base in the world. And you can see in 2003 and 2004, they lost approximately $4 million and $14 million respectively. In 2005, through a combination of licensing technology and acquiring other companies, they were able to turn a small profit. And the theme of turning profits through licensing and acquisition will be revisited at a later point.
Also, in our market analysis, we discovered that there is a unique niche opportunity with the smaller departments, specifically a population of under 10,000. And as you can see, just a decade ago, only 5% of the under 10,000 population used in-field computers. And now you can see they have had a rapid growth of 18% annually to a 47% use, but there's still 53% that's untapped. And if WirelessWare can take that and tap into it, and they have a lot of profitability advantages.
And initially, our idea was to grow the company organically. And in doing that, we realized that we would need about $300,000 of initial investment, and we'd need about 8 employees. As you can see there on the graph, although you are making a profit after 4 years, the profit you're making is quite small and doesn't quite take you out of the red. There's also some other issues with this in that there's no interest factored into this that you would have to be paying on your loan. And as well, there are some other intangible factors, such as the fact that a young company would not have the network that a more mature company would be able to go out and look for customers. And secondly, they would also not have the They would, as Blake talked about earlier, we would be a component instead of a system, so that would limit our customer base for that. And as well, as it says, there's a third point that we would need. This model relies on growth of a constant growth every year, and as well a 100% retention rate, which is not always possible.
As using the results of our market analysis and the financial projections that Rob came up with, we decided that it was time to go to the founders and get their input as to where they really wanted to go with the company. And through those discussions, we basically decided that there were really two main options to consider. And those were either to operate the company and try and grow it organically, or to try and enter into some sort of a strategic relationship. And after taking into account what's going to be best for all the parties involved, we decided that a strategic relationship probably is going to be really the best option for wireless wear. So as part of the strategic relationship, there are actually 4 particular options underneath there. You have the ability to license, there's the acquisition possibility, and then also strategic alliance and partnership. Licensing in a non-exclusive or an exclusive position would allow the company to still harvest earnings from the product, but they would also be able to pursue other interests outside of their traditional product line in terms of research and development. The acquisition might provide them more of a financial upside, just in the terms of all of the assets of the company would be acquired, and that they wouldn't retain control of the software. And there's also the strategic alliance and partnership, and the advantages of those options are the company's able to leverage existing sales and marketing channels and networks of larger companies that have been around in the industry a little bit longer. So basically those are the four options that we laid out in front of the founders.
And through this newfound knowledge, through our meetings with the founders, we decided to put together a strategic matrix that involves 4 desired features. First, their market penetration. Second, their need for a mobile component. Third, the quality of their existing products. And fourth, their growth strategy that's currently in place. We came up with, as Blake discussed earlier, the many competitors that are in the market. We chose 5 that best fit partnerships for wireless wear. And as you can see, there is 1 or 2 that kind of exceed above the rest, that we actually are in current discussions with 1 or more of these companies.
And if we were going to have some sort of a strategic relationship with another company, one of the things we looked at was whether we'd want to do a lump sum or a per-seat license. As you can see on here, the lump sum is significantly less than the per-seat license, and that mainly has to do with the risk associated with dealing with a younger company, as well as the health of the industry. A lot of the companies there, as you heard earlier about BioKey, a lot of companies are having trouble either turning a profit or just don't have the cash flow that would be necessary to make a lump sum purchase. So it would be our recommendation that we would try to pursue a per-seat license fee that would really help increase the benefit not only for OU and wireless wear, but also for whoever we would partner with. And it would also put wireless wear into a better operating position.
As a result of our visiting and revisiting the market analysis and the financial section, we've come up with a set of final recommendations for wireless wear that we think are really going to help them work down the path towards coming to a successful strategic relationship, or entering into a successful strategic relationship with another company. And as Marjorie mentioned, the first step down that road has already been taken. We have had a meeting a few weeks ago with the president and vice president of one of the companies that we had listed, and those talks over the past several weeks have progressed, and it appears that there's mutual interest in at least some sort of business relationship. But given that, we think there's still some points that need to be visited. The first of these is that they need to establish their preferred strategic relationship. As I mentioned, there are 4 possibilities there. So it's important that the founders get together and select which one of those 4 meets up with their personal goals the best. It's going to allow them to present their needs and wants to potential partners in meetings on a much more unified front. It's just more professional if everyone comes in from our side of the table knowing what they're looking to get out of it. Next, we think that they should try and get those meetings by contacting the additional companies listed on the strategic matrix, and also with using their own personal networks. Obviously, as I mentioned, they were able to provide us with over 100 other competitors, so they obviously have a pretty extensive knowledge of the landscape here. So by using the matrix that we provided and also their additional contacts, we think that trying to enter into some talks with some other companies is beneficial, A, in terms of trying to increase the probability of entering into a successful partnership, and B, also providing some negotiating leverage with the companies that they're currently negotiating with. And the final point that we believe is important is to complete the software preparation, which basically involves completely documenting the code and providing a user manual, because if they're getting to the point where they're looking to enter into potentially licensing or having someone acquire the company, if that's the road that they choose, then they're going to need to turn over the software to them. So they really need to get it to a point where it could be completely handed over. And we believe that if these recommendations are followed, that it will lead to a successful relationship for wireless wear and benefit for all parties involved.
We would like to thank Dr. Radhakrishnan and Dr. Antonio. It's been an absolute privilege to work with you both this semester. We'd like to thank our mentor, Tom Appel, for his invaluable knowledge and expertise that he's shared with us, and everyone at CCEW just for a great semester and an amazing opportunity. And we'll now open up the floor for questions if anyone has any.
The company that you mentioned, like
BioKey?
huh?
BioKey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old are they?
They became public in 1995. So I think they were founded in 93 and became public in 95. And up until that year in 2005, they pretty consistently lost.
So they never made money.
They pretty much lost $7 million a year every year.
Who did they try to sell?
What's that?
Who did they try to sell?
They were the ones who were actually doing the acquiring. That they were able to turn a profit by acquiring some other competitors in the space and adopting some new technology.
So their business plan was acquisition of companies and consolidation.
After 10 years of losing millions of dollars, I guess they decided to try something different.
In order to protect the value of a potential licensing arrangement, what sort of legal protections does the software system have?
As I eyed the resident lawyer for OCD right back there, I know that it's really the university retains the intellectual property, and it's currently licensed to wireless wear. So there's legal protection in that, and actually will kind of depend on the licensing arrangement, particular licensing arrangement, whether it's exclusive versus non-exclusive. But essentially, the university is still going to retain the legal ownership of the intellectual property.
So the software is patent?
What's that?
The software is patent?
There is patent pending. There has been an application filed. Yes.
This sense of conflict and developing a strategy to make the decision, following that strategy between the founders and the university interests?
When do you guys want to field that one?
That was one of our initial perspectives, was to make sure that we help to please all the parties and all of the stakeholders. So that's including the university and the founders. So we're trying to, or we have tried to come up with the best compromise for both, and I think we've accomplished that.
Pardon me, Jim. I don't understand words like stakeholder. I'm interested in the decision maker. Who would the decision maker be in the final analysis?
The ultimate decision maker is, at the end of the road, it's the person who's going to own the intellectual property. And the university right now is the person who retains the intellectual property. However, it is Dr. Antonio and Dr. Radhakrishnan's company. So as far as the implementation of any of those recommendations, that's completely up to them. It basically comes down to trying to get the most out of the situation for everybody. It's a loss if OU gets a lot and wireless wear doesn't get anything. It's for mutual gain.
I have a question. Who invented the original system? Was it not the faculty members?
Yes.
And did you explore the relationship that the faculty had with the university as far as IT is concerned?
relationship in
faculty
what?
member owns a percentage of their mines, the university owns a percentage of their mines, so the intellectual property is not solely owned by the university.
There we
It
go.
is?
And they understand fully the monetary agreement with it.
Yes, it is.
All right.
You don't like that, do you?
I think it is fair to say at this point that everyone involved is comfortable with the situation, and we've reached a mutual decision that everyone is happy with.
The lawyer finally speaks out.
But it is something you might just mention that is covered in the boot camp in the CCEW class about what the intellectual property policy of
Yep.
the university
And Neil has
is.
a wonderful talk on that.
That was your plug, didn't it?
Anybody else?
Would you invest in this company?
Well, it ultimately depends on whether or not the founders are interested. It depends on what their interests are. If they're interested in, my guess would be that their interests probably lie in some sort of strategic alliance or partnership or some sort of license where there wouldn't really be an investment opportunity. If it were offered for sale, I think that given some of the marketing and financial information that we looked at, that without the existing, there's a lot of competition and there's a lot of pitfalls out there in terms of other areas. It's certainly, obviously, a very promising technology if we're able to get other companies involved in it. So that's, and basically the answer to that question is our change in process over the whole semester. And we initially thought that we were going to run it as a company and try and seek outside investment. And after analysis several times over, we came to the decision that trying to take advantage of someone else's resources is going to be the better way to go about it.
And on that same note, Wirelessware has a superior technology, and really, if they can license it, they have a very visually appealing program to any user who's going to use it.
So it's worthwhile continuing to look for these partners.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very good.
Yes.
First off, great job.
Thank you.
How you have more police department and who else? Norman?
Norman.
Yes.
How important is it if you're going to negotiations for strategic partnerships or licenses, etc., to get other marquee players to use the technology to prove the principle? If I saw Washington D.C. or New York City or Las Vegas, maybe not Reno, that'd be bad. But if I saw some of the other people, maybe it would be even more appealing, because Norman is obviously more appealing on the smaller side. Is that a consideration for a leverage point if you are?
I have my own thoughts. I don't want to let one of these two.
I definitely think it is, and that's something we had talked about earlier, is the more people that we can get using the product, it's obviously the better. The problem being is now that it's run by two faculty, they don't necessarily have all the time to go out and do all the sales and marketing that needs to be done to gain customers. So there's definitely been inquiries by other police departments around the state, and even in I think Texas, that I think are interested. But it's just the infrastructure is there, but the opportunity is undoubtedly there to do that.
And at the same time, you mentioned quite a few big cities, and really Wirelessware we think would be best fit in the under 10,000 population.
You did say that. So, okay, thank you.
If we can get like Chickasha or Yukon or something like that to pick it up, then it's just one more person to encourage our technology.
I have one more question, David. So if the university owns this, technology, and you indicate that the primary reason why it's not succeeding is that there's no one out there marketing it to the principal people that would find it most useful. So what's missing here? What's missing here? Is the owner of the technology not marketing it correctly?
The owner, the university has an exclusive license to Wirelessware for this technology. So ultimately, any sort of deal making as far as alliances and partnerships will require university approval. However, their day-to-day operations as far as if they want to try and invest, bring additional capital on or anything like that, OU is only going to want to help try and make sure that that kind of thing happens, because it gives them something else to point to as success from the office and from this program. But anything else, I mean, as far as raising money or sales and marketing efforts, that's completely up to them.
That's the founder.
Yes.
Very good. Nice to meet you, Lexi.
Very good, guys. Thank you. Okay. I'm particularly proud of that team because I think it took a lot of courage for them to come in with some initial perspectives that I think everybody thought was the right answer, to really do their own analysis, to dig into the data, look at it, say, you know what, maybe there's a different twist here, and to have the courage not to escalate their commitment throughout the course of the semester to get to the answer everybody wanted, but to really say this is what the right thing is for the business. And that takes a tremendous amount of courage at such a young tenure in their career. So good job. Up next is our refining technology team. Tell us all about process improvements.
All right, we are the refining team, and like Daniel said, our technology basically does two things. One, it increases the yield of more valuable products coming out of a refinery, and two, it increases energy savings. My name is Andy Hill. I'm a chemical engineering senior, and I'm from Sand Springs, Oklahoma.
My name is Sasha Down. I'm an engineering physics major from Chicago, Illinois.
I'm Lindsay McClure. I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I'm an MBA candidate with a background in industrial engineering.
My name is Joe Oliver. I'm a mechanical engineering student, and I'm from Edmond, Oklahoma.
All right. Well, first thing about refining. A refinery basically processes crude oil, and crude oil is basically a bunch of valuable products that are all mixed together. And so as you pass through a refinery, all these different units separate the different products into the valuable products that you can put into industry and sell for commercial profit. The very first unit in a refinery is called a distillation column or a crude unit, and that's what our technology deals with. So all of the crude oil is being passed through this unit, and since our technology is directly impacting all of the crude oil, we can have a direct impact on the amount of money that we can save a refinery. So our inventor is Dr. Miguel Daga-Haywitz, who couldn't be here tonight. He is a distinguished professor in this university. He's in the School of Chemical, Biological, and Materials Engineering. And some added incentive, he's quite skilled in the art of judo, so we made sure not to screw up too much.
Yeah, to do very well.
So,
at a high level, Dr. Daga-Haywitz's technology, you see here on the right-hand side a picture, a computer schematic of a distillation column. And you have products coming, you have crude oil coming in, and you have products coming out. Dr. Daga-Haywitz's technology decreases the amount of the least valuable product coming out of the bottom, the residue, kind of a sludge stuff that comes out, and increases the yield of the more valuable products, gas oil, diesel, kerosene, and it has the added benefit of energy savings. And just an update on the patent that the university has applied for. It's received a notice of allowance, and all the claims that Dr. Daga-Haywitz has made have been accepted. So we'll be receiving a patent number in less than 60 days. Additionally, our mentors, Tony Say and Tim McLeod, who unfortunately couldn't be here, they were our team mentors providing this guidance. They work at Clearwater Enterprises, and their subsidiary is Ventura Refining. And they are a great Oklahoma success story. They're bringing up a refinery in Thomas, Oklahoma. It's about an hour west of Oklahoma City. And so in addition to them being mentors, providing us insight into the world of crude oil refining, they also can be our business partners. And so it's a working relationship as well as a mentorship relationship. The benefit for Clearwater or Ventura Refining is that our technology increases their revenue. The benefit for OU is that as a team, we get mentorship and guidance, but the university as a whole, they get an in to the oil refining business, which has been part of the difficulty with this technology, is getting that first step inside to the business. There's a lot of skepticism for new technologies, and so if we can get this in an actual refinery, it lends credibility to our technology. And so Thomas is a really unique opportunity to get our technology to be used in the refining world.
All right. Well, there's two ways that I wanted to validate this technology. And the first way is to use a simulation software that was developed by Simulation Sciences called Pro2. And what we did was you build a simulation of a crude unit without the technology, and then you build a simulation of the crude unit with the technology, and you compare the amount of residue, that least valuable product, in both with and without the technology. And we found that with the technology, we decreased the amount of residue, so therefore we are going to increase the amount of profit to a refinery. The second way we wanted to validate our technology, we did this semester. Me and Sasha went down into a lab in Sarkey's Energy Center, and we used experimentation. They usually ran like 8 hours a day, and we found through all this experimentation that we would decrease the residue without the with the technology by about 15%. So not only were we able to show it on a computer, but we were also to show it with the actual crude oil in a vessel running experiments. So also this semester we, mainly Dr. Bagahewitz has been speaking with Ventura Refining and being able to simulate the Thomas refinery specifically. So we would be able to provide not just general numbers of, hey, maybe we can save you this much, but we would be able to provide them exact numbers of how much money they would be able to save if they were able to use our technology.
All right, now that we kind of have a general idea that the technology works, we'll try to look at more of the economic benefit of this technology for a refinery. So as we kind of mentioned before, there's an expected increase of 10%, well 15%, but to be conservative, 10% of the valuable products, and a corresponding 10% decrease in the less valuable products. Now obviously that can vary. If a refinery is already producing a very small amount of non-valuable products like the residuals, then you're not going to have as much to work with to increase. And on the other hand, if they're producing a lot of non-valuable products, then there's more to work with, and so that percentage may be higher. Now, if you look at a kind of distribution for a refinery on where they get their profit, most refineries in the U.S. make about $10 a barrel on every barrel that's processed. And there's various products that they end up selling, as Andy and Sasha both mentioned earlier. And so this is just a typical or a possible scenario for a refinery. Obviously, there's a lot of other products that a refinery can produce, and they can be in different proportions. But if we take this as a baseline case and say, this is the profit you're getting from each of those specific products, and then we can kind of see how our technology is going to impact those profit margins. So what you can see on the bottom graph there is it may not look like much, but you're actually getting a decrease in the least valuable product. In this case, the least valuable product produced is the gas oil. It's not always the case, but for this case it is. And then you're seeing a sharp increase in the next product up the line, which is the diesel produced. And so that 30, and when in the end, it ends up to about 20 cents more per barrel. So instead of getting $10 a barrel, you're getting $10.20. I know 20 cents doesn't sound like a lot, but because of the volumes that these refineries are doing, it really does add up. So what you can see on this slide is 20 cents a day, or 20 cents per barrel, ends up in almost $25,000 daily increase in the refinery's profit margin. And so if you consider the average refinery size in the U.S. is roughly 120,000 barrels, that 20 cents really does end up going a long way. And then if you expand that farther and look at the yearly basis, you're making 8 million to 9 million additional revenues with these conservative estimates. And so although it may not seem like much at first, this technology really does have a very big impact on the bottom line of any refinery.
Okay, so now that we kind of have an idea of the value of this technology, our next step was to look at the market that we want to take the technology to. And as we mentioned earlier in the presentation, the technology actually applies to any distillation process. But we're specifically looking at crude oil refining. And so to get information on that market, we went to the Energy Information Administration. And from there, we gathered data on U.S. refineries and their total outputs from 2005. And we also looked at the breakdown of the different products they produce, how much and what kind, and then also their units or their types of hardware, if you will, in the refineries. Some refineries have something called a vacuum column and some don't, and that will affect the implementation of this technology, and so we had to consider that. So after looking at the macro market, we broke it down into different segments. And this graph has a lot of information on it, but really the big picture that I want you to see is that the market that we're looking at that this technology applies to is a wide range of refineries. We go all the way from 20,000 barrels a day being produced all the way up to several hundred thousand. And so there's a wide range of potential customers that we're looking at when we talk about marketing this technology.
When you're talking about marketing, we're actually working on a license agreement with Ventura. We're right now kind of formulating how that's going to look, but it's going to be a non-exclusive license for them to kind of try out this technology in their refinery. So not only does it hopefully increase their revenues, but it also provides a proving ground for our technology, whereas if we had to kind of do that on our own, it'd be a very expensive process of kind of putting together a pilot plant, and it wouldn't be as accurate as a real-world working refinery would be. And so this team actually has a unique situation where we'll be continuing on to next semester. The CCEW group, there will be a CCEW group next semester working on this same project. And so what you're going to see is they're probably going to be working on evaluating what's the best business approach for this technology and where to take it. But we'll talk about it a little bit more, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So.
Okay, so hopefully so far we've given you some idea of what we really have accomplished in the last few months. As Andy and Tasha described earlier, the technical validations are a huge part of making this technology, getting it out into the marketplace, and we did that both through computer simulations and the actual experimentation in the lab. And then the second thing we did, as Joe talked about, was creating a spreadsheet that kind of calculates a basic costing model for what it would take to implement this technology, what it would cost, and then also the end payout and an approximation of that. And some of the market data that we looked at will help in creating almost like an individualized pitch book for each refinery so that we'll be able to tell based on what they make and by how much they make, how much the technology will improve their process. And then, of course, the last thing that we worked on was the Thomas refinery and getting the technology implemented there and starting to work on negotiating a licensing agreement with that. And so as Joe mentioned, next semester there will be another CCEW team that takes this project over. And these are just a few things that we feel like, that we would recommend that team focus on in the spring semester. The first, of course, is the completion of the Thomas refinery implementation and everything that goes into that. The second would be to investigate the best business model for this technology. As I showed you earlier, the market for this has a wide range of small refineries all the way up to very large ones. And so determining the best way to bring this to market is going to be a big priority. The last thing would be to investigate forming a technical support business. And we would recommend that the next team really work closely with the inventor, Dr. Bagahewitz, on this to really capture his vision on what he's looking for in a support business. We really feel like the next semester's team, we're confident that they'll do well in continuing to bring this technology to market. We're excited to see what they do.
And we'd like to acknowledge CCEW and the OTD for the existence of this program and all the great support they've brought to it. From Ventura, we'd really like to thank our mentors, Tony Say and Tim McLeod. And from the School of Chemical Biological Materials Engineering, Dr. Bagahewitz, the inventor of this technology, and Alan Miles, the machinist in the school who helped us with a lot of the nitty-gritty of this experimentation. And from the Coffeyville Refinery, Jeff Thompson, who provided us insight into the refining market, its segmentation and entry into the market with the new technology. If there are any questions, we'd love to take it.
Is this technology a piece of equipment or is it a process?
It's a process that requires equipment, I guess.
Yeah, that's
so it is new equipment.
Yeah, without, there's there's some equipment.
It would require capital costs by the refinery to implement this process.
But the capital costs are compared to the profit the potential profit capital cost is somewhere between $100,000 in that range, maybe $200,000. So you're not, comparatively speaking, it's still an easy call. So that's something the next team will have to work on, really narrowing down. So.
You guys have a great point of reference, but what do you think about having your primary mentor having a business interest in the outcome of the technology versus our team and the other teams had mentors who were in it or didn't have a personal stake in the outcome of the project?
I really liked it. I thought it added a different dimension. I mean, I don't think there was a conflict of interest, you might say. I really think that there was the mentoring, and that was how we got in touch with the coffee hill refinery and how we got insight into the market. But then there was also, there was this talk of how this could benefit Ventura, and I really think those things can be separate but equal and important. I don't know how the rest of my team feels about that. But.
Yeah, I mean, it made it a little more complicated at sometimes because you are getting mentored by someone who you're also selling the technology to or trying to sell the technology. So it made it a little more complicated, but also made it even more real-world experience, like you're going to have to be dealing with all those complications.
Driving up an hour to Oklahoma City to their offices, and a lot of getting up at 7, fitting in their schedule, and but then also having them come down here sometimes, and I think it worked real well.
What are the environmental effects of this technology?
It's not going to have any environmental effects. It shouldn't.
No change?
No. Well, although increased energy savings would conceivably lower, I would say there's
the one thing that I guess it could do is increase capacity of the units that handle the lighter products, like reformers and stuff like that, and it might increase the capacity or the amount of product going to those units. So if that increases, I don't know if that's going to change the emissions of those units or not. But
why did you have to do the experimentation yourself? I thought that was part of the inventor job to do that.
Well, that's been one of the. Our inventor had a graduate student work on this. I'm not sure when, a couple years ago or something. But they weren't really pleased with the results that the graduate student produced.
And Dr. Bagahalik is very busy. This is not his only invention, nor his only responsibility. So I think it was a unique opportunity for Andy, a chemical engineer, and me, a physicist, to get an insight into chemical engineering experimentation. I think actually the experimentation was an maybe almost we kind of wanted to do it to really get our hands on with the technology, see the results, get our hands dirty and smelly with some crude oil, and so I enjoyed it.
The quality of crude oil can actually vary significantly from one batch to another batch. How did you take into account that in your calculations and projections?
With simulations, we you can vary the quality of the crude oil, what type of crude oil, the weight. As for the experimentation was more of a proof of concept. We took McLean County crude, which is has an average weight. What is it? API gravity? I think
it was pretty light crude oil.
But the type of crude oil that is used does have an effect on how this technology, how much revenue this technology can add. But the proof of concept is that this should work for all crude oils.
I guess another way to ask the question is, where do you get the greatest benefit? What grade of crude oil, or do you know?
Dr. Bagahalik has run those simulations. We don't have a simulation that any of us interns built with and without the technology, but Dr. Bagahalik has those, and I know he has processed the different types of crude oil in his simulations. And if I remember right, he said that heavier crudes tend to produce better results, probably because the heavier crudes are going to produce more residuals.
Which actually provides an interesting business opportunity as seeing that a lot of U.S. refineries are moving to heavier crudes from Canadian tar shale. So that's an interesting sort of future market analysis that really could be done.
Got one more question.
The refineries opening up in Oklahoma again after closing. The Thomas refinery is very small.
Yeah, it is.
One, how do your results vary with the scale of the refinery in terms of the profitability? And two, I noticed that you didn't have any heavy oil products. You started with gas, and you didn't have any heavy products there. Is that going to have an impact? Because most refineries will move to heavy products during the summer months and then the lighter products during the winter months.
The second question, the gas oil being at the bottom, that is sort of an artifact of us working with the Thomas refinery, and that is their residue product. As for the scale, I'll let Andy.
What was the first question?
The scale.
The overall scale of a refinery shouldn't affect the technology's usefulness. It may make the capital cost, or will make the capital cost higher because of the size of the equipment that you'll need will all be scaled up. But then when you compare it to its effectiveness, it's going to have roughly the same effect. So, a lot of the huge refineries are running multiple process flows, and so I don't know what kind of the maximum flow rate you can have through a single process flow. It's probably 150, maybe 200,000 barrels, and after that, they're getting their extra capacity from just laying down the same thing twice, so two or three process flows.
The profit and the capital cost for this technology should correlate somewhat linearly to the capacity of the crude unit. If it's larger, the capital cost can be a little bit more, but you're also going to get a much larger profit because you're going to be able to decrease the residuals even more. So that answers the question.
Can I ask one other question? What did you learn about implementing this if you're going to design a new refinery, maybe I'll target this at you, or if we just got a jillion existing refineries all across our country and want this OU technology brought into there, well, what's the best timing? Is there a good time? Is there a bad time? How do you sell that?
Well, we've actually been talking about the best time, and this is for Thomas, but it would apply to any refinery, is any sort of downtime when they're doing maintenance or something like that to go in and implement. Of course, we'd have a lot of preparation before that, figuring out where, physically things would be attached to one another. But as far as maintenance downtime, that happens every year.
Depends on the refinery. It's 2 through 3 years.
It's a regular cycle.
So for a 120,000 barrel refinery, how long does it take to put this little dude in?
It really only has one tapping in the main distillation column. That would be the complicated part. And other than that, there's another
possible.
Yeah.
Less the man hours. I think Dr. Bagahewis has said that this might add 2 to 3 days to the traditional downtime of about 2 weeks to a refinery. So if you can get all that engineering work done beforehand, it really can reduce the opportunity cost of putting this technology in.
And in a year on 120,000 barrels, then you're going to make another $18.
Yes.
Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So as you can see, this team is emblematic of the range of work content that our interns get to participate in. Everything from the first group, which was more of a later stage opportunity where a company was actually spun out of the university and we're trying to help formulate go-forward business strategy, to more even technical validation at the very early stages of the idea, moving into how do we get this to market. So I think it's a great breadth of perspectives and experiences that our interns are getting to acquire here at the CCEW. Our final presentation is, again, the opportunity for OU to establish an affiliated seed fund, so we'll welcome you.
Well, good evening. Thank you all for coming out and braving the weather. we have a very exciting opportunity to share with you all. And my name is Ben Stewart. I'm an international business entrepreneurship and Spanish senior from Tulsa. And
I'm Ryan Smith. I'm an engineering physics major, and I'm from Houston.
My name is Marina Barrientos. I'm an economics senior, and I'm from Bolivia.
And so my teammates and myself, along with our mentor, Dr. William Paiva, who has been a great help to helping us draw plans up for the seed fund, are going to share with you a little bit about what a seed fund would do for the university. As you've heard from the past two teams, there are some very exciting technologies being developed within the university, and each of which could have benefited greatly from an influx of capital. These are some of the spin-off companies, just a few of the spin-off companies coming out of the university currently, and we would like to help see a seed fund be developed to further develop more technologies on campus. What is a seed fund? A seed fund provides early stage funding for new technology. Not only does it provide funding, but it also provides guidance, which is very important when you're trying to get a company off the ground and give that intellectual capital and know-how behind the company. The OU Seed Fund will provide capital and guidance to developing technologies within the OU community, and this is faculty, staff, students, alumni of the like. In turn, this will create an economic engine for growth within the state. And if we want to become a leading research institution, we must put our money where our mouth is and fund these technologies that are coming out of the university. When creating new technologies, timing is critical. It's kind of like a race, and currently we are falling behind due to this lack of capital. For the university, as I said earlier, to become a research leader, we cannot allow the technology to sit on the shelf. We have to be out there and proactive in funding the technologies that we have. And a seed fund will provide just that. It will be an entity, a one-stop shop, so to speak, where these technologies can be funded and great help to the inventors that we are surrounded by tonight. Currently, this is how a technology coming out of the university may look, the time span. We have great ideas, and then there comes a critical juncture where the technology must be funded. And currently that takes quite a bit of time. It's a virtual roadshow of going out and trying to, deal by deal, get the technology funded. And then the commercialization can resume after the technology has been funded. Whereas we see in a comparison by a company in the private sector where the technology may have even come about later, but there is a plan drawn out for how that technology will be funded. And it may take a few months, but the technology ultimately resumes quicker than the way the university currently has set up for that. And with the seed fund, we can see that the technology comes along, and then within a matter of weeks or even a month, a management team can decide whether this is a viable technology, and the commercialization can resume. So therefore, the technology gets to market faster, and it's like the race where we end up winning. So it's a powerful slide to see how that would happen. This is how a seed fund might work. Bringing together the capital, the people, along with the investment opportunity, we'd like to look at this as a partnership, and a way for the inventors and the capital to come together with a management team to build a company and take it from the idea stage all the way to commercialization. And this would be a great way to do that with the OU Seed Fund. With the help of the Seed Fund, the company will be helped to get off the ground, and along with the intellectual capital and the physical capital, such events may occur such as prototyping, proof of concept, initial marketing, etc., therefore helping to get the company to continue on its commercialization pace. Now Ryan will talk a little bit more about the capital.
And as Ben mentioned, capital is a very important aspect for a company as far as getting started, getting off the ground. And the traditional avenue for finding that capital is venture capital firms. However, there's a problem. Most venture capital firms do not focus on funding startup or seed stage companies. I can see here those companies account for less than 3% of the overall monies spent by these venture capital firms. They tend to focus more on the later and expansion stage companies. And as you can see, over the last 6 or so years, they're becoming even more focused on the later stages However, their focus on the startup and seed fund stages continues to be small. And so this means that there's a lack of capital for traditional startup companies. In addition to that problem, there's also a problem here in Oklahoma. Most venture capital firms focus their monies on the coast, in California, Massachusetts, New York, and North Carolina. This is a graph just depicting three of those states, California, Massachusetts, and Oklahoma. And as you can see, Oklahoma accounts for less than 0.1% of all of the investment provided by these venture capital firms. So companies started here in Oklahoma get hit twice, doubly hard. One, because there's a lack of money at the startup or seed stage, and second, because there's just not a lot of money here in this region of the country. And so this lack of funding for startup and seed stage companies creates a funding gap between the available commercialization opportunities and the money to market those. Here at the University of Oklahoma, we have university-wide support of technology development that adds value to these commercialization opportunities. Related to that, we have the continued success and growth of the Office of Technology Development that, again, adds value to our commercialization opportunities. We also have continued expansion of our research enterprise across all campuses of the University of Oklahoma. As you can see from the building that we're sitting in right now, this is very prominent and happening very quickly, and again, adds value. And finally, we have the addition of hundreds of endowed chairs to our research department. And all of this creates a growing bubble of commercialization opportunities here at the university. But there is no financial outlet for these opportunities to reach the marketplace. And that's where a seed fund would come into play. Now, you might be wondering, what sort of technologies do we have available here at the university? Currently, we have 122 available technologies that have been patented in a variety of sectors, including medical, engineering, computer, nanotechnology, and a few others. In addition to those 122, we have 21 small and thinly capitalized or thinly financed companies that have licensed OU technologies. And this 21 is out of a total of 25 companies that have licensed OU technologies. So as you can see, with these 122 and the 21 small thinly financed companies that would benefit from a seed fund, we have plenty of opportunities to take these commercialization opportunities to the marketplace. And to get a little more perspective, we can look at a few other universities across the nation. This is not an exhaustive list by any means, but Emory, Iowa State, Florida, Michigan State, and Stanford have all witnessed huge benefits financially from their own technology commercialization opportunities. And there's absolutely no reason OU can't join this list. In addition to the financial benefits, there are also several other intangible benefits, including faculty recruitment and retention, undergraduate and graduate student attraction of more donors, and just in general, other universities within and around this area moving towards a more focused effort of technology development. As recently as Monday, the Wall Street Journal had an article that spoke to this important point of universities moving towards campuses of startup companies. And so there's a lot of benefit to be had by having a seed fund. And so our effort as the seed fund team was to take those benefits and come up with a model that we can use.
The methodology that our group employed in order to elaborate our final recommendations consisted of a series of steps. We started by benchmarking the best practices from important institutions in the field who have already gone through the process that OU is about to start. These institutions include the U Ventures Fund in Utah, the University of Minnesota, and the Louisiana Fund I. I conducted over 20 interviews, both inside and outside the university. And it's very gratifying for us to see many of our interviewees with us tonight. Thank you very much on behalf of our group and the CCEW as well. Inside the university, we interviewed a series of stakeholders, including the Office of Technology Development, members of the Legal Council, the Research Cabinet, and the OU administration. We also interviewed the main customers of the OU seed funds, who are the OU entrepreneurs. We conducted interviews to experts outside the university, such as members of OCAS and the Kaplan Foundation. Furthermore, we conducted research on models, on seed fund models in place right now. The most important thing to be aware of when talking about the seed fund models is that only a seed fund embedded in OU, a standalone model, guarantees a complete focus on university technologies and on university objectives. So as the scope of the fund broadens, there will be a trade-off between this absolute focus in the university and regional growth, cooperation, and recognition. The functional tool we employ in order to find the best model for OU consisted on crossing the most important university objectives with the different models available. The objectives surfaced from the OU interviews that we conducted, and they include that the seed fund should foster technology development inside the university. The economics of the seed fund should be market-driven. The deals should be based on strong and objective fundamentals. Our seed fund should count on the expertise of people both inside and outside the university. And the seed fund should guarantee a contribution to the long-term economic development of Oklahoma. After ranking each model according to its potential to satisfy each one of these objectives, our tool yielded that the best model to implement our seed fund is the standalone model embedded inside the university. So a summary of the recommendations of our group for the implementation of the OU seed fund include that first, only technologies with a meaningful commercialization potential should be funded. Also, the OU seed fund should be a for-profit endeavor in order to guarantee an effective management process. The seed fund should be embedded in OU to start with, so it should be administered by an office inside the university. Moreover, the manager of the fund should be an investment professional, coming preferably from the private sector. And in order to attract the best talent for the management team, an attractive compensation system must be put in place, in line with those rates, in line with systems already in place in the market.
So as you can see by this chart, we look for 4 main sources of capital for the seed fund: OU donors, other high net worth individuals, institutional investors, who might include private foundations, and also state organizations. And we foresee 2 different types of investments. One as a tax-free donation per se to the seed fund, which would be in the name of a gift, or also an investment like any other private investment would be, where the returns would end up with the initial investors. The money would then be transferred into the management team of the OU seed fund, who would then elect where to invest the money into whichever technologies they find to be viable. And then you see the reinvestment back into the fund if it was a gift to the seed fund, so it would continue to propel future economic growth within the state, or if it was an investment, it would simply be returned to the investors as in any other private investment opportunity.
So what size the initial seed fund should be? Well, our estimates indicate that the initial seed fund should be between $7 to $10 million in size. We came up with this number by considering that on average, early stage ventures receive an initial $500,000 funding. If we multiply this average by the number of expected deals in 4 years, we get $8.5 million. So the size of the seed fund should be somewhere around this number. It's important to note that the number of $500,000 is just an average, so there will be deals that require more than this. vertical sales, co-investor opportunities will be pursued. As we can see in the graph, the number of deals per year will increase with increasing research opportunities at OU and with availability of funds. These numbers come from OU data and historic benchmarking on technologies yielding companies from Atom. And as the Fund 1 becomes completely invested, additional fundings will be raised. So what are the next steps in the implementation of our system? If we consider a timeline starting in January of 2008 and finishing early in 2008, we get that, first of all, a steering committee, an OU system planning committee should be appointed. The main goal of this committee will be to elaborate a formal implementation plan to present to the OU leadership. Once this plan is approved, legal aspects such as the formal establishment of the OU system structure must be taken care of. Afterwards, there must be the recruitment of the management team to proceed with the fundraising. That will be between $7 to $10 million, as mentioned before. And finally, we'll proceed with the dealer screening and with the well-desired investment process.
And so that was sort of the short-term goals of the seed fund. And now to get a sort of broader long-term look, we will use the seed fund to provide an engine for Oklahoma's long-term economic growth. And the way we'll do that is we'll start by partnering with and working with OU's long-term research strategy, which includes working with the University Research Cabinet and also adding faculty incentives. And then in addition to that, we'll work with the statewide workforce training initiative by partnering with such entities such as OCAS, the state regent, Career Tech, and just various state and local chambers of commerce. And then encompassing that, we'll look for other local affiliations that can include the Noble Foundation, the University of Tulsa, Oklahoma State University, OMRF, I-CCEW, and Presbyterian Health Foundation. And then finally, we'll look for some national affiliations. These can include, again, U-Ventures, which Mariana mentioned earlier, UTech, and just general research, regional and national venture firms. And the whole goal of all these affiliations is to promote technology development and commercialization within the university, and also to achieve success in driving Oklahoma's long-term vision of economic growth. And so I'd like to just take a moment to thank Dr. William Paiva for his help and his leadership in guiding us to come to this point in the semester. And I'd also like to thank the faculty and staff at CCEW for all of their help. And we will now field any questions that you might have.
What's the complexities, or are there complexities of commingling in a single fund, or would you separate those dollars that were invested for profit and those that were put in as gifts?
Yeah, there are some complexities. That's something that could be worked out. We've seen a few other models that have sort of split that up and formed a separate company to take care of the investment as opposed to the gift. But I think that's something that the management team that we would select, they would lay out the plan and see which would work best for this specific fund. So I can't really speak to exactly how that would work, but I mean that would definitely need to be taken into consideration.
You can tap into state funds that I noticed, and recently the state established a, I can't remember the name of it, I mean they haven't worked out even the board for it, but it's a similar situation. Why the state will benefit from this? Why did you not consider tapping into some of their venture funds?
I think you're referring to the EDGE initiative, and
Yeah.
the idea we had is that they could be a co-investor with us, with our fund, and so that therefore creating partnerships in that regard.
However, the EDGE fund is very limited in what it's going to go after. Are you suggesting that certain technologies be emphasized and only those needed?
We're looking at a broad range of technologies, and I don't think we're limiting ourselves to in any regard. And we're looking across campuses and not within solely Norman or within engineering or within technology. It's a broad range of technologies or processes even that we're looking at.
And I think that initially our focus is going to be university technologies coming out of OU. Eventually we'll hope to expand and probably incorporate and work with more OCAS and their fund and just sort of expand and become broader as we reach out to more technologies that are available to fund.
You examined 4 modules and you ranked the standalone approach as the preferred option. If you had more time to work on this, would you continue to analyze that, or would you spend that time looking at one of the other 3 models?
Well, I think that was the sole purpose of this project, was to figure out which model we would like to pick for the university, and I think we exhausted those options thoroughly because we felt like the focus of this, at least initially, was through funding university technologies, and the best way to do that would be through a standalone fund. So maybe eventually we would look down the road, like Ryan mentioned, in that last slide, to tie in with national entities, but initially that wasn't even a viable option, in our opinion, because of the fact that they would simply overlook the University of Oklahoma, most likely. And I think that these inventors in the audience would probably agree with that statement, that it's difficult to have people attracted here in the first place.
As you conducted your interviews, did you talk to anyone who might be a potential investor in the donor? What was their level of interest in actually putting money into such a fund?
Well, I talked with the foundation, and they are a primary area we're looking to have manage the fund, and they're very interested in pursuing this. But at the same time, we have heard that there are several private investors who are interested in putting their dollars into the fund. So I definitely think that this is stirring interest within the university and surrounding the university, especially with alumni and people who are Oklahomans being interested in this. So, yes.
Like, you guys had that, the matrix, one of the lines on there was market driven, and you ranked standalone fund ahead other funds that were university associated or multi-university funds. Why was that?
I think we felt like we would have a more intimate knowledge of what the technologies would be and who the mentors were, and have a better understanding of what they wanted to do and where they wanted to see their company going. So while that could be a bit of a conflict of interest, we felt like that was a better way to know our investment, and therefore we ranked that higher because of the market-driven economics of seeing what that vision was, and then we could go from there through that. Yeah.
Did you make up in your I really enjoyed that presentation as an inventor and having difficulty getting seats in my concern is that the research needs to be done not from somebody like you guys in order to determine the makeup of the board. My concern would be that your timeline, that things sometimes in the university get very drawn out. And a seed fund, needs to make quick decisions and not on a state bureaucratic organization. It needs to be more of a private sector, and that's why you just touched on great things. But I think you would agree, looking at the way you wanted that organization structured, that we need to have forward-thinking people that are going to say, "This is a good technology. We need to move this right along."
That's the reason why we are trying to guarantee that the manager of the fund should be somebody coming from the private sector who has expertise in this kind of endeavor.
We also
want to be emphasized in the final report.
Yeah, yeah, it will be definitely, because that's the main affiliation that our initial statement will have with the private sector. which is very important.
And we want this to be the manager's primary job. We want there to be just 3 to 5 managers of the fund so that they can make quick, nimble decisions and get back to the inventory so that it's not a process of months, it's just maybe a few weeks. So I think that that's definitely been looked at, and we've heard that when we fielded the interviews, essentially. Dr. Holmes.
The slide was only up for perhaps a minute, but you rated on a market-based decision process. That was one of your criteria. I believe you rated state agencies as a 1+, which was a pretty negative thing to say about state agencies. There's favoritism, some local idiot, senators, husband-in-law, going to get the money. I noticed you rated the OU fund with 3+. I think if you took those 3+ and put perhaps a different spin on just exactly how universities make decisions, and you looked at the number of pluses you gave to a model that is a pure market-driven model, you would get a tie. Now, I only saw it up there for a minute or so, but if you check your math on your model selection process, there's a powerful argument to suggest that the private sector-driven model really ties with the university-driven model.
Well, actually, the affiliated with a private venture fund got 4 points, and then the market-based standalone university-embedded model got 3 points. The reason we rated this in this way is because we're trying to guarantee that our seed fund is going to have a strong affiliation with the private sector by having a management team that comes from that actually has that expertise.
It's going by the university.
The university is going to be administering the seed fund, but it's the manager and the management team who ultimately would make the decision.
But his question was employed by the university, wasn't it?
But they're not employed by the university in the fact that they're
Yeah, that would be the case.
But they're paid by market return, so if they make a
And on that subject, what is the rate of return on seed investing? I saw your arrows went up. Just all up. Every arrow went up. Some went up later, some went up earlier, but they all went up. Did that ever fail?
A couple of clarifications. I mean, I think it's worth to highlight this is going to be a university sort of push managed fund coming out the door, but ultimately needs to be managed by somebody outside the four walls of the university to ensure business decisions are made and not local academic decisions. So that's the point that, even though sort of the first is the steering committee as it relates to the codification or development of funds, ultimately the selection of management team needs to be externally market-driven. As it relates to rate of returns, that's a very difficult question because I think there's a real survivor bias on these data, and you'd like to think, late-stage guys don't make as good returns, mid-stage as good as late stages, which is early stages you'd expect because it's sort of much riskier, so you should get a better return. The seed stage historically has gotten, for the ones that survive, they make 40, 50% IRR. For the ones that survive. So it's a very difficult question to answer. I don't think anybody has a good handle on what the seed stage rates of return are.
NOU does have a history of having a foundation run by outside of the health sciences. The money that was generated out of there. And the decisions were made on a very good process.
Yeah,
so I think that OU can do this. I mean,
when we talk to the university
model that they can make decisions outside of the bureaucracy.
And when we talk to the other university associated funds, I mean, it was almost 0.1. The thing needs to be represented.
Right.
Here, that was just almost 0.1 because there's lots of just conflict, university weight, etc.
Last question. The demand for donor cash, freelance cash, is quite heavy these days. How would you foresee encouraging the university to prioritize the raising this money over perhaps a New Deckham Stadium or I'm thinking of a serious question because if you're standalone, you're relying upon your through the block for donor cash. The other one is an investor cash, and your board is not going to be as free to do with that cash because the investor's going to have some idea where to put their money. So how do you propose to get the university interested in prioritize this at the same level as another tech on stage?
I think that as far as focusing or getting the donors' attention or whatever, the seed fund adds value on multiple levels. First of all, it impacts the state by providing new and exciting companies that create money for the state. But it also, since it's linked to the university, there's also the education benefit that students can have from working with these technologies, because a lot of grad students work and develop these technologies, and they can be involved in the process of commercialization. And just sort of the general benefit for the university as a whole, as sort of recognition within the state, and again, just advancement of these technology developments. I think there's benefits on multiple fronts that can sort of persuade these investors to put money into this fund.
And I think you have to look at it too, like your target market. And a certain donor may not be interested in a deck on the stadium, but they might be very interested in, say, new technologies because they are a serial entrepreneur. So you have different ranges of potential investors or potential donors for this fund, and I think that there is a very large segment of people who have quite a bit of capital who are very interested in seeing something like a seed fund coming about. So I think that's an interesting point too.
And the only other point I would add is because I talked to several university presidents about this. 20 years ago, this was much more difficult because you're competing for other dollars. But presidents now are more resonating with the concept that to be competitive to get faculty, to be competitive to keep faculty, you really need to start putting these things in place. Other universities are doing as well. So you can't just sort of carve out your piece of the pie. You've got to sell the intangible benefits, which is faculty recruitment intention, grad student recruitment intention, et cetera. So 20 years ago, that was hard to sell. Today, presidents will tell you it's very important. It's a very important part of the conversation for attracting a lot of good faculty.
And I guess, John, I'd add, I think your question's very good. And I think part of the answer, maybe the most important part of the answer, is having the student body rally behind making the point that this is what we want to have happen at our university. And we're committed to this, we're engaged in it, and we'd like to stay in the neighborhood when we graduate. Why don't we make this a priority? So, in my judgment, the most powerful force of this comes from the student body.
Great, thank you so much.
You said it very well.
Okay, I know that the hour's getting late and the roads are getting icy, so I'll just conclude with just a few brief comments. First of all, I want to commend this team for taking on what is a very challenging topic. Can be politically charged at times, and I really applaud them for taking a stand. They didn't come up here and give you a book report. They came up here and gave you hard recommendations and clear perspectives on a path forward that our university could take. They are consultants, and it's not just a class project. So I thank you for taking the hard line there. At the end of every semester, we plan to kind of do a little status check. How are we doing? CCEW has 4 main initiatives. One is to broaden the exposure to the entrepreneurial process. Events like tonight are emblematic of that. Your presence here allows us to communicate what we believe are some of the more important and exciting things going on in entrepreneurship in the state of Oklahoma. We attend many conferences and give presentations across the state whenever we're asked, or sometimes we invite ourselves, because we really believe in sharing the gospel, if you will. In fact, the Seed Fund is actually going to be recognized on a national level. They were selected to participate this coming January in Utah at the Nationwide U Ventures Symposium for University-based financing. Just a tremendous compliment to the work you've done. So they will become our ambassadors now. The second goal is to provide real-world entrepreneurial experience to motivated and talented students. I think clearly you're seeing that this evening. Not only with the business issues these teams tackled tonight, but also I believe they will walk out of our program with the confidence to follow their dreams. They know how the game is played. They know if they have an idea where to go, what the resources that are available in our state and beyond are. They have the confidence to play the game. And that's priceless. And that dovetails into one of our other objectives, which is to change the wealth creation landscape for the state of Oklahoma. You've seen two incredibly interesting ideas tonight. There are many more in our portfolio. The seed fund will allow us to turbocharge the development and changing this landscape. We're exposing these bright students to opportunities that maybe they wouldn't have had otherwise. In fact, 2 of our initial intern class will be accepting jobs in the state of Oklahoma in knowledge-based industries with very high wages for people graduating with their undergraduate degrees. This is exactly what we want. These 2 students would undeniably have gone out of state upon receiving their diploma from the University of Oklahoma, but because of their experience and because of their own ability to recognize what is possible here in the state of Oklahoma, they've chosen to stay. And that might be the best success metric we have. So for all those reasons and more, I'm extremely proud of this first class. I'm excited to see this so well attended, particularly on such a tough evening. I invite you all to stay, mingle, interact. Please meet our interns from this semester. We have some heavy hors d'oeuvres in the lobby. But before we go, I want you to see the future of our program. I'm going to read the names of the new incoming intern class for spring of 2007. This is where these ideas go. Justin Briggs, Charles Bright, Harry Coates, Jay Doyle, Lyndon Lamb, Robert Lepak, Jan Lopez, Tyler Mossmeyer, Valerie Myers, Brennan Quick, Ryan Smith, and Brian Van Schoik. If you'd stand up and let everyone know who you are. They carry the torch from here. So thank you again tonight. It was my pleasure to share these thoughts and to expose you to some really talented individuals making a difference in our state. Please stay for the cocktail or the refreshments afterwards. Cocktails are invite only.